Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney 2. This is V-Diffuser. In our last episode, we got a little bit of a reunion from our friend Sosuke Natsume from the third case of the first game, and Inspector Hosonaga, who still hasn't gotten rid of that cough. Things aren't looking good for us. Consul, it's time for your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I will be moving to my adjudication immediately afterwards. I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. Let's see, is there anything here? What do we have here? We still can't do anything with that. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Yeah. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. Frey knew that withdrawing the knife would threaten Miss Brent's life further. I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it. Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it? I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail, too. So this must be... examine the evidence... Alright, it's been a while. Spartan guidance is what I need. Alright, court record with R. A to examine it further. Yep, there's the initials. From all angles. Need to rotate. Is it a Yume University one? It must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. That would seem to imply the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. This is a newspaper from Sosuke-san. Seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's medical research? Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that! The poison's been stolen? It's this morning's newspaper that Sosuke-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Ray in charge of the project. Ray? She was managing it? If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. We need to read this article very carefully. Oh boy. Things are already getting twisty. Okay, next. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Oh, let me tell you the way. No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ah! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial Yuma University. The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But, Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak. But a newspaper article. The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense. I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article affirms your assertion. Your Excellency! Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says, it's deadly in tiny quantities. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When a toxin enters the body on a knife laced with poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting if the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Mbani-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible? Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What? This is complete and utter nonsense! Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold. Oh please, this is clear desperation. Weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway. In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or their argument makes no sense. Exactly! Well put, Inspector! On what grounds did she do it, yokel? Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What? You can't possibly... From your expression, Counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. Naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency, I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side at the Old Bailey. You will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison? Alright, it's gotta be the post-mortem. I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim. Ah! Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science. I have no idea, so please, do tell me. Presumably the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death. Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes. What are you doing, you yokel detective? In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. What? But the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without a doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence. You yokel student and yokel professor! I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions. No! Eugen Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. You mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Ah! Listen to this bumbling academic. Unaware that theft is secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper. I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Father. A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray? Maiden-Bami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that Professor and Sosuke-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had been taken. I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean? Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman. Miss Giselle Brett. That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. She just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes had shrunk to tiny pinpoints. I don't believe it. In other words, you realized the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison. My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while I'd been with her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back. And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade. Yes, if the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I'd hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time. And I'm sorry for butchering that line. Jeez. Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end. Thank you. Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here, in this courtroom now. Objection! Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membani-san, if that's the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer because of simple truth. You stabbed the victim motivated by revenge. Objection! But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Oh, I have evidence. That's very much conclusive. What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it. You will produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Auchi. Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student. What? I'd imagine there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you brought it on yourself. What the? Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty on the air on that beach is almost palpable. This evidence, more than other, reveals the true extent of the accuser's murdered nature. It shows the precise moment that Membani-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back. No, that's not true. No! I don't believe it. Ah! Ow! Order! 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 Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom? Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature. Shut up. I'll show you who's slow to mature. Careful now, Susato's starting to show her face here. It's often said a picture's worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. I believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute. I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph?
Attention!
That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Attention!
That's an absurd thing to say. It's critically important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony. Hey! I will uphold the defense's demand. Prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. Pardon? You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness! Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph had the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court? That's illegal evidence. That is Miles Edgeworth Investigations level stuff for illegal evidence. Even, like, raising from the ashes level. When you first produced that print before, I noticed you hesitated for a brief moment. Because you knew it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! What matters is that the blatant truth in this print so eloquently expresses. But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. That is blatant character assassination. The moment it was withdrawn... Don't waste the court's time with your ramblings. Indeed, without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. No, Susato, this is a time for you to fight. This photograph shows the moment where you withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we need to prove that somehow. You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Takatsuchi Ouchi in the court of law. I can't determine who took this photograph, and the trial's gonna come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. Counsel. Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is... I think I know who. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I have to! The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No! You can't possibly! But, as you so boldly claim you can, please, do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name. How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could? However, I'm able to present evidence. The defense is a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity. What? Very well then, counsel. Present your proof to the court. Alrighty, evidence time. The only thing that has a picture is the article here. What is that? Newspaper again. Raucous England returnees tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, You'll notice there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Yes, indeed. It already caught my eye as it happens. Ah, what of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like. There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at this photograph... Oh, yeah! There's a crack right there. Good gracious! Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph, too.
Objection!
Well, that tells us nothing. Ah, yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely. From the branches of a tree. There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach council. Ugh. What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired? The curious matching pattern is the fact that it is a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs. With the photographic device? Yes. We can confidently say the camera's lens must be scratched. And that the scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device. In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera. But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of that particular one.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article... That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime. No! I see why you call the raucous English returnee. What are you yelling about? You already testified. It's Mini Memo, I tell you. Mini Memo! Mini Memo! Sosuke-san? What was that? Did you say Mini Memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Reiten Mini Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk. Now that he mentions it... They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. Could that same reporter be... A camera to the left of him, a notebook on the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Reiten Mini Memo. You're saying that this picture was taken by Mini Memo! Yes! My lord, your excellency, Esquire, even. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Yes, your excellency. As you say, your excellency. And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood? Mini Memo! Alrighty with that. To be continued. Time to save. We'll cut it off here. I'll see you guys next time.
Have no doubt, I'm in control. You may think chasing ghosts is